Hello YouTube, James Baker here, and today I got a great video, a highly requested video, and it's a functional video. It's going to talk about taxes and functionality, but it comes down to giving the right advice to my foreign-owned LLC owners. And I talk a lot to people who are from outside the US, doing business outside the US, who have LLCs, and it's tricky. There's a lot of questions. I talk about this a lot on the channel, and today we are going to be getting into, should I open a single or multi-member LLC? To give you guys some context, if a guy from India who lives in India and a guy from Paraguay are business partners in a venture and there's no US presence, they don't have to pay tax in the US, whether there's a single member LLC or a multi-member LLC. But there are distinct differences, and that's what I'm going to go over in this video. And I'm going to help you decide at the end of the day, should you open a single or a multi-member? Because even if you're doing business by yourself, I have many clients that will just put their spouse as a 1% owner, or their mother or their daughter or their best friend, and they'll make them a 1% owner just so their company is a multi-member LLC instead of a single member LLC. And it's important to decide this at the beginning because it makes it a little bit easier for you. If you already have a single member LLC and you're thinking about changing it, this is still a great video to watch. And then also the next video is going to be on exactly how you should change from single to multi-member LLC. But that's not what I'm doing in this video. So right now I'm going to go through 5 different categories. I'm going to go over the identifier, I'm going to go over the tax form, the legal documentation, the legal liability, and then the estate tax differences. The main difference between a single member LLC and a multi-member LLC is the identifying information form. When a U.S. payor is requesting tax identification from a single member LLC, the single member LLC owner has to give a form W-8-BEN or a form W-8-BENE if the LLC is owned by a foreign corporation or entity. This confuses Americans often. I had a call this week with this American company that pays a lot of international people for different types of payments, and it confuses them because they don't know if there's taxes supposed to be withheld or not withheld, and it's confusing. And this is the primary reason people decide to go the multi-member LLC route, because the identifying form, the tax identifying form for a multi-member LLC is a form W-9. Now the W-9 is for U.S. persons, and when you give a U.S. payor, Amazon, or me, and I'm paying you, or whatever, any company that pays you for anything in the U.S. is going to ask for this form. The W-9 is easier. They don't have to withhold taxes, and they just put it in their system and they issue a 1099. I just did a video about 1099s, but they'll issue a 1099 and that tells the IRS how much they paid you. It doesn't mean you have to pay taxes. It doesn't mean anything, but you shouldn't be getting 1099s if you are a foreign-owned single-member LLC, and that's where we have a little bit of disconnect. The 1099 MISC, miscellaneous, there's different versions of the 1099. So this is the primary distinction. I have other videos where banks have required, Mercury, for example, not a bank, requires people to sign a W-9 to keep the account open. This is the main difference here. The single member LLC is a W-A-B-E-N and the multi-member is W-9. So if you are working with Amazon, if you are working with maybe like a brokerage account, or maybe a US company that's not very complicated, or maybe they're too corporate, it might be much easier for you to have a W-9. Because if you give a W-8 to the wrong person, they don't know what they're doing, they might withhold taxes. And that's really annoying for everybody. It's annoying for them to have to do it, and it's annoying for you to have to try and get that money back. So that's the big distinction. Now, if you are just providing services, you're a single member LLC and someone's paying you and you have no issues, you don't need to add a member and become a multi-member LLC. You don't need to do it. And sometimes, as we get into step 2, it's better to be a single member LLC. That's the main distinction with the tax identifier, and I hope you understand that the W-9 is great. It's easier to get paid, it's faster, it's simpler, and there's no tax withholding. But that leads into step 2, the tax forms that you need to file with the IRS. A single member LLC has to file a pro forma form 1120 with a 5472 attached to it to report all related party transactions. So generally people are reporting how much they paid themselves, how much they paid to open the company, how much they paid to close the company. Simple transactions. It's a fairly simple filing. The negatives with this are that you have to put your foreign tax identifying number on there and the country you're working in and information like that. So if you're a German person, you have to put that you're from Germany, working in Germany, and you have to include your German tax ID on the form, technically, to do it the right way. That's more information that you have to file for a multi-member LLC. And I know this is technical. Pause it, rewatch it, comment if you have technical questions, but I'm going to keep going because you can watch it twice and I'm giving you the right answers here. So the 5472 is great because it's not highly scrutinized, but you do technically have to share more personal information with the IRS. And the potential penalties for doing it wrong are much higher at $25,000 per form, which is insane. And to be fully transparent, I haven't seen it assessed in this circumstance with a foreign-owned single-member LLC. I haven't seen the penalties assessed, but that's not to say the IRS doesn't decide to just start assessing penalties because they love to penalize people. The tax form for a multi-member LLC is completely different. A multi-member LLC is filing form 1065. Now, you may want to be filing the 1065 because the primary distinction is you have to show the income and the expenses, and you have to show who the partners are, but basically the name. You don't have to show a foreign tax ID. You don't have to show where they're from. It's going to be Rodrigo Sanchez, who's from Paraguay, and this is his address, his mailing address. We often use our address for our clients, and this is how much money of the profits are attributable to him. And if there's no U.S. trade or business, there's still no taxes to pay in the U.S. And that's sometimes better because first, you are sharing more information about the business results, but this is also better because if you're trying to sell your business or you're trying to get a loan, you're actually showing what your sales and your expenses were for this business. So many clients want to have this more disclosed informational form because you can actually justify and show what your income and expenses were. And maybe if you're in a country like Spain, or if you're in a country where you have to pay tax on this income from your LLC, you want to include everything as an expense there, even if maybe in Spain it's not an expense. If it's a justifiable business expense, include it as an expense. The IRS has no tax to collect from you anyway, so I don't see why they would check on it, but it allows you control to show what your profits are for the business, whereas the foreign-owned single-member LLC is just showing how much you basically paid yourself. Some people like to report more. It is more work. It's more complicated. It has to be, generally, there's just a lot more pages to it, and you have to have better accounting, but you know, those are the differences. Maybe if you want to show your income expenses, and a multi-member LLC is better for you. And again, multi-member just means more than one owner. So that's Rodrigo and his niece who owns 1%. If an owner of an LLC owns less than 20%, the banks aren't going to ask for that person's information either. You don't have to put their information on the BOI report. They're basically completely anonymous except for the tax return anyways. You just have to be careful if you have Americans as partners because they have to pay tax on their income, even if it's all from outside the U.S. And also, if they're in the U.S., you might have a U.S. trade or business. So that's a different video. Now I'm going to go over some ancillary things. So the legal documents are actually the same. Both LLCs have a operating agreement. An operating agreement is showing how the LLC is going to operate, who's going to be in charge of everything, how you make the decisions. The templates are going to be pretty similar, whether they're single or multi-members, but you should be identifying the ownership in the operating agreement, and then identifying also who is making the decisions and actually managing the company. If you're the 99% owner, generally you'd be the manager as well. Next, we're going to go into legal liability. Now, I'm not an attorney. I'm a CPA. I do taxes. But I've talked to attorneys and I've been told and I've understood that a multi-member LLC does carry a little bit more legal protection in the case that you're sued. Now, I haven't had a client that's been sued for anything. I've been told that the multi-member LLC is better for legal liability protection. It's also better for, having your family members access to something. Like, for example, if you are married, you may want to have your spouse on the LLC as well. Now, the last item is that I have for this video for the differences is the estate taxes. Estate taxes are only on U.S. source assets, which would generally be real estate or stocks for most people in practice. Now, I talk about estate taxes often. If you're a foreign person and you have assets in the U.S., including stocks, or you have, real estate in the U.S., it's really important to structure your ownership correctly. While there's better ways to structure ownership of real estate, a multi-member LLC is going to be a little bit better than having just a single member LLC. It's going to be a little bit better estate tax protection. It's a gray area. It's technically not better, but in practice, it's much easier and it's much better in practice. So that's what I want to talk about, the estate taxes. If you're owning stuff, if you have a brokerage account, or if you have a real estate that you're investing in the U.S., it's better from an estate tax perspective. The tax filing may be a little more complicated, but if you're investing, you should be able to afford a good CPA to help you file those forms correctly. In summary, if you're just a guy doing programming, working on Upwork, that's fine for you. You're probably okay with a single member LLC. You can always change it later. I'd say watch this video and make a decision. Don't get held up. Don't slow down your business. You have to be a successful business person, you have to make quick decisions, and you have to be able to move and do this. This is a small decision. Just make the decision and keep it moving. Hopefully this gave you some insights into this. If you're using Amazon or if you're getting paid by many different vendors in the US, a multi-member LLC may be better. Also, if you're married and you're really close with your spouse, you might want to put your spouse on it at least 20% in case something happens. They can have access to the company for estate taxes, for transition, for anything else. It makes the transition period, but in case of an untimely, if you get hit by the bus, it makes it a little bit easier. So if you have a spouse or somebody, I would probably recommend you just put them on at least like 5% or whatever, and then you have it so that they become a member if something happens to you. It makes it a little easier for the succession, for the estate tax stuff. But other than that, just make a decision. They're both fine. If you want to show your income, the multi-member is better. If you want a W-9, the multi-member is better. And also, if you have a spouse or a business partner, it's obvious. Just if you have a business partner outside the U.S., also just make a multi-member LLC. It's perfect for you. So if you have questions or and let me know, comment below. You can schedule a call with my team. We have jamesbakercpa.com/schedule. And finally, if you have a single member LLC and you want to switch to a multi-member LLC, I have a video that's coming up. It's going to be right here where you can click and I'll show you exactly how to switch from a single member to a multi-member LLC for free. Basically, it's free. I'll show you how to do it in the video. Okay. So I'll see you on that one. Thanks for being here and have a great afternoon. Thanks, guys.